Grab some Dollar Tree ceramic trays because I have some genius ideas on how to turn them into high-end home decor. I hope you enjoy. Using one of the unfinished round ceramic trays, as well as some gold rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree. These are the flowers. I'm going to cut out 3 individual ones and place one in the center of the tray. Then you'll take something with a flat edge like a credit card or a craft stick to go over the plastic piece to burnish this until the rub-on transfer adheres to the tray. So once you peel your plastic away, it should look something like this. I'm going to repeat that process by placing one individual flower on each side of that and going over the plastic piece, burnishing the rub-on transfer onto the tray. Once finished, you could take a gold Sharpie to go around the outline of the tray. In my case, I'm going to use some gold leaf rub and buff and a sponge dauber, and I'm going to go around the edge of the tray. You can make this as thin or as thick as you like. I kind of wanted mine to be fairly thick in the front. You'll allow that time enough to set up and then take Mod Podge as well as a clean, soft brush to go over the rub-on transfer. And it's not necessary to go over the gold leaf rub and buff, but I did want to make sure that my tray had the same sheen going all the way across. Once that is dry, you can then use this as a beautiful jewelry tray or even use this and display it. In Dollar Tree, sometimes you can find these glossy ceramic trays, and they also have a stand on the back. For this one, if you don't have a rub-on transfer, you could use some beautiful stickers from Dollar Tree. In this case, I'm going to use this butterfly. It does have a clear backing to it, so once I press that down in the middle, you could leave it just like that. But, I want to take some gold leaf rub and buff, and this time I'm going to use my finger to go around the edges. You want to apply just one coat on each side because you'll need to allow that time enough to set up so that you'll be able to build this coverage up. Because it has that gloss on there, if you continue wiping it without letting it dry in between coats, it will just wipe off. But once you have applied the amount that you want on there and you allow it to completely set up, it will not wipe off. Another way to decorate these beautiful ceramic trays is with some simple removable wallpaper from Dollar Tree. First, line up your design exactly where you want it, and then trace around the bottom edge of the tray. We're not going to cut this with regular scissors. I'm going to be using some Fiskars scissors. Now I have some that cut in a curvy shape and some in a scallop shape. I chose the scallop shape, so I'm going to cut on the inside of the line that I just drew. Then you simply just peel the backing off, and what I love about this is it is removable, so if you ever want to take this out, you can just peel that wallpaper up. I just like to take something with a flat edge to make sure all of the edges are pushed down. Pick out a napkin with the design of your choice. I absolutely love these blue florals. Take a piece of tape and go down to the corner, and you will easily be able to remove the back layer, so you're only left with the top layer. When you flip it over, you want to be mindful of where the wording is, just so you don't have that in your design. We're going to use this square unfinished ceramic tray, and I'm going to line my napkin up on that. I don't want to cover the whole entire tray. I want to have a bit of a jagged edge, so I'm going to use a long, clean paintbrush and some water just to create a jagged edge going from one side of the napkin to the other. Then you can very gently tear away the napkin so it doesn't have a perfectly clean line. This will make it look a little bit more authentic. Once the water on the napkin is dry, take a layer of Mod Podge, and because this is an unfinished tray, it will soak it up, so you will need to add a very generous amount. I'm going to add this over the entire top as well as the outside edges towards the bottom because I want to wrap my napkin around the edges. Once I lay that on top, I'm going to smooth it out by gently pressing that down with my fingers. I'm going to make sure that I wrap the outside edges where I applied that Mod Podge. Once I have all three sides pushed down, I'm going to take a layer of Mod Podge to go over top of the napkin, all along the edges and all along the top of it. Then I'm going to take a jar of paint to set this on top of to allow it to completely dry before I cut away any of the excess napkin. Now that it's dry, I am going to cut the corners with a pair of scissors, and then I'm going to cut like a rectangle out so that it will lay flat on the back side of the tray. This is not necessary if you don't want to cover any parts of the back of the tray. You could just sand it away, but I did want my design to wrap around it. I can then add a layer of Mod Podge to the back of the tray and then go over the napkin, pushing it down and adding another layer of Mod Podge on top. Do that on all three sides, and then I went ahead and covered the back side with Mod Podge to make sure it all had the same sheen. Using one of the unfinished ceramic trays from Dollar Tree, I had a few bumps on it, so I am going to very lightly sand over that and make sure I wipe it off. And then to make sure it has absolutely no debris on it, I'm going to take some rubbing alcohol, pour that on there, wipe it all the way around, and then I'll set that to the side to allow it time enough to dry because we're going to be using some resin. I have a part A and a part B, and you can get resin at any of your local craft stores. You may even be able to get this at Dollar Tree. This whole kit came from Temu. I'm also going to be using 3 different mica powder colors. You want to put on some disposable gloves and then have some sort of containers that you can mix this in that you'll be able to clean out later or even throw away. I'm going to mix a 1 part A to equal 1 part B of the resin solution, and then you want to make sure that you really mix this thoroughly. Make sure you scrape the sides, scrape the bottom. You just want it to be completely incorporated together. Then I'm going to use 3 smaller containers so that I can make 3 separate colors. So I am going to pour a larger amount in one of those containers and then a very small amount in the other 2 containers. Then I'll take those mica powders and using just the end of a craft stick, I'm going to put 2 scoops of white in one of the small ones. Mix that up really thoroughly. Make sure there's no powder residue left, that it's all liquid. Set that to the side, and I'll do the same thing for the other small one, adding in 2 scoops of like a seafoam green. Mix that thoroughly, and then I'll set that to the side. And the largest one is going to be a beautiful dark blue, and because I did put more resin in there, I'm going to add 3 scoops to that and mix it thoroughly. You'll want some extra craft sticks as well. And now that our tray is dry, we're going to set this out and we're going to just start playing with this resin. So I started by pouring in some of the dark blue at the bottom. I was kind of going for an ocean theme, but I really didn't know what I was doing. This is maybe only the second time I've really worked with resin, but it's so much fun. So I poured this out, kind of spread it out with a craft stick. Then I poured in some of that beautiful green and then just a hint of white on the top of the green. And then I decided to add some more blue at the top. Once I added the blue, I just kind of wanted to swirl it around and make a design. So you can basically just add whatever colors you like. You can use a clean craft stick and kind of spread that out and make little swirls or designs in your resin and just play around with it until you get a design you like. So I just kept creating swirls, moving the resin colors around, kind of mixing them up a little bit, adding in more white in some areas, maybe some more green in other areas, and just continuing to play around with it until I got a look that I really liked. I didn't want the edges to have that raw, unfinished look, so I tilted each of the sides over to make sure that I could get the resin to basically drip off of the edge to make sure I could get it all the way to the edges, all the way around. I did set mine aside for about 72 hours to completely allow that resin time enough to set up. And this is what it looks like. I absolutely love how it turned out. However, when you flip it over, it does have all of the resin that dripped over the edges. To clean that up, I am going to apply some white paint to the back side of this, being very careful not to get it on the front. And it did take about 3 coats to cover that up. For this project, I'm using one of the finished glossy trays from Dollar Tree that has the stand on the back. And I had some of that leftover mixed up resin from part A and part B, so I decided to go ahead and mix up some more green, white, and blue and try a different technique with this tray. Once I had those all mixed up thoroughly, I'm going to line my tray up because it has that stand. I want to make sure that's at the bottom. And I added in my blue and kind of swirled it around to the edges. Then I added in my green. And then I decided to take my hairdryer and try to get a little bit of movement in the resin. And I kind of liked the way that was going, so I decided to go ahead and add in some white and then add in a few little dots of white at the bottom. I was kind of going for an ocean theme, and then I took my craft stick and kind of spread some of that white resin around, and then I got out my hairdryer again. Well, when I started moving it at the bottom, I still liked the way it was looking, but then when I went to the top, I got a little too close and it kind of just blended it all together. So I just went with the flow, decided to go ahead, turn the hairdryer off, add in some more blue to give me a little bit more color. And I used the rest of the blue, and then I got the hairdryer again, and again, I was liking the way it was going, but I got too close and I started mixing it up too much. So I just kept playing around with it to try to get a design that I like, and then spread it all to the edges using my hairdryer, just creating some movement and bringing that all the way to the edge of the tray. I added in the rest of the green and the rest of the white resin, used my hairdryer again, and then just kind of swirled it around to make sure that everything was even all the way around. I set this aside, let it dry for at least 72 hours, and it did have a little bit of a film where I kind of swirled it. So to clean that up, I'm going to use some white chalk paint, and I'm using a chalk paint just because this has a glossy finish and I want to make sure that it adheres to this finish. I'm going to go all the way around that inside rim and clean it up, and this is how it turned out. I hope you enjoyed today's projects, and if you have a favorite, please let me know in the comment section down below because I always love to know which one is your favorite. If you haven't subscribed already, I would love you to click that subscribe button right below the video. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Please take care, and I'll see you guys next time.